Imagine a world not unlike our own, teeming with life. A vibrant blue marble suspended in the vast darkness of space. Lush forests stretched across continents. Great oceans churned with a symphony of creatures. And on the land, giants roamed. This was our Earth, a paradise of warmth and abundance, a cradle of evolution where life flourished in countless wondrous forms. For millions of years, this rhythm continued, a delicate dance of creation and existence. But the universe is a place of immense and often sudden change. A cosmic clock was ticking, and the long, warm summer of our planet was drawing to a close. Unseen forces were gathering, setting the stage for a cataclysm so profound it would push life to the very brink of annihilation. The world was about to be plunged into a darkness colder than any night, an age of ice that would test the resilience of life itself. The change began subtly. A slight chill in the air, seasons that stretched longer and colder than before. The planet's heartbeat was slowing. Deep within the Earth's orbital mechanics, a slight wobble, a minor tilt, was altering the way sunlight kissed the surface. Less warmth reached the poles, and the snows of winter no longer melted in the summer. Year after year, century after century, the ice began to accumulate. What started as glistening caps at the top and bottom of the world began to spread, a slow, unstoppable white tide. Glaciers, rivers of ice miles thick, ground their way south from the north and north from the south. The oceans, once warm and welcoming, began to chill. The air grew thin and sharp. Animals that had thrived in the warmth began to struggle. Herds migrated towards the equator, a desperate search for lands not yet touched by the encroaching frost. The great forests began to wither, replaced by hardy tundra. A sense of unease settled over the planet. The sun seemed more distant, its light weaker. Panic was a silent scream carried on the wind, as the world watched its vibrant colors fade to a stark, unforgiving white. The great freeze was coming. Then, the world fell silent. The relentless advance of the ice had reached its peak. Continents were buried under sheets of ice thousands of feet thick, their immense weight pressing down on the very crust of the earth. The oceans, where life had first sparked, were now vast, frozen deserts, their surfaces locked in a glassy stillness. The once mighty rivers were solid, their courses frozen in time. An eerie quiet descended upon the planet. The roars of the great beasts were gone, their bones entombed in the ice. The songs of birds had ceased. An estimated 90% of all life had vanished, erased by the suffocating cold. Earth, the blue jewel, was now a pale, ghostly sphere. It was a world seemingly devoid of life, a planet in a deep, frozen slumber. From space, it would have looked like a dead world, a beautiful but sterile snowball drifting through the cosmos. The great experiment of life on Earth appeared to have failed. The silence was absolute, the stillness profound. It seemed as if nothing could ever stir on this frozen tomb again. But life is stubborn. It is a flicker in the darkness that refuses to be extinguished. Deep beneath the frozen oceans, near volcanic vents gushing warmth from the planet's core, ecosystems persisted. And on the surface, in the narrow band of habitable land clinging to the equator, a few, the hardiest, survived. Small pockets of humanity, huddled together in caves and makeshift shelters, endured. They were hunters, scavengers, and storytellers, keeping the flame of consciousness alive against the overwhelming cold. They wrapped themselves in the furs of the few remaining animals, the woolly mammoth, the saber-toothed cat, the giant elk, creatures as embattled as they were. Every day was a battle for survival. The search for food, for warmth, for shelter was a constant, grueling struggle. They were a handful of souls scattered across a frozen globe, the last inheritors of a world that was. They looked up at the pale sun, their breath misting in the frigid air, and they held on. They were the survivors, the last hope of a world on ice. And then, just as mysteriously as it began, the cycle turned. The planet's slow, cosmic wobble shifted once more. The orbit around the sun altered, ever so slightly, bringing the Earth a little closer, tilting its axis to catch more of the life-giving rays. The turning point had arrived. The great melt began. At first, it was just a drop, then a trickle. The edges of the immense glaciers began to weep. The sun's warmth, weak for so long, grew in strength. Cracks appeared in the frozen oceans, and with a thunderous roar, great plates of ice began to break apart. Rivers, frozen for millennia, began to flow again, carving new paths through the thawing landscape. Water, the lifeblood of the planet, was returning. For the survivors, this was a time of immense change and new dangers, from colossal floods to shifting landscapes. But it was also a time of hope. The air grew warmer, softer. The first green shoots of grass pushed their way through the barren, thawing soil. The world was awakening from its long, icy dream. The ice retreated, pulling back to the poles where it remains today. The water it released filled the oceans and carved the coastlines we now know. The barren lands it left behind were slowly reclaimed by life. Forests grew, grasslands spread, and the animals that had survived began to multiply and evolve, adapting to a new, warmer world. Humanity, forged in the crucible of the Ice Age, emerged more resilient and resourceful than ever. We spread across the newly opened continents, carrying the memory of the great cold in our collective story. This epic tale of survival is written into the very fabric of our planet, in the shape of its valleys, the composition of its soil, and the DNA of every living thing. It is a profound reminder of Earth's power, but also of its fragility. A testament that even when the world froze and all seemed lost, life found a way. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the deep past. If you enjoyed this story, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Sleepy Past Chronicles for more cinematic tales from history. Until next time, sleep well.